Hey, and welcome back to Animation Study Group, the series where I, a beginner in animation, encourage you to follow along as we work our way through this, the Animator Survival Kit by Richard Williams. This is episode 7, and boy, was it a doozy. In episode 5, we took a look at pose-to-pose animation. In episode 6, we took a look at straight-ahead animation. And in this episode, we are combining the two approaches to get somewhere in between, somewhere in the middle of the two. If you want to know the basics of those two approaches, I suggest taking a look back at episode 5 and episode 6. The goal of combining the two is to try to harness the planfulness of pose-to-pose animation as well as the spontaneity of straight-ahead animation. For this exercise, the book describes an animation where a character starts off at one side of the page, stops to pick up a piece of chalk, and ends up at a chalkboard writing. In this video, you'll watch me try to recreate that idea. I'm going to run you through the steps that I took and hopefully enable you to give this exercise a try as well. The first step of this exercise was filming reference of myself so that I could get a good idea of timing and what the key poses were going to look like. So here's that. Then I took that reference video and I drew some rough keyframes or thumbnails. That looks like this. Once I had my thumbnails, I imported those into opentoonz. I created my chart with my keyframes circled based on the timing of my reference video. Then I drew my character hitting each of the keyframe poses. Once I had my key poses established, I went ahead and drew my extremes and my breakdowns as well to serve as guideposts for my straight ahead runs. Then I took a run animating just the legs and a run animating just the torso and another one animating the head. And at the end, I sort of improvised the character drawing a spiral on the blackboard, or whiteboard in this case. All right, at this point, you should know the drill. This is the part of the episode where we get into some really fast footage of the animating process. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to break up each straight ahead run and pop back in to talk about them, or if I'm going to let them all play out. I'll know once I start editing the video. Let's get into it. All right, here's the end result. This is our animation of a character walking, picking up a marker, and drawing on a whiteboard. We use some principles of pose-to-pose animation as well as straight ahead, and I really enjoyed this one. I feel like the pose-to-pose process helped me to organize my thoughts and bring this from concept to fruition, which was really cool. I also like a couple of the sort of more flowy moments that I think came out of as straight ahead. Like with the feet, I had no plan for how the feet were going to move, but I like the way they kind of flap as the character walks across the screen. I also wasn't sure what the character was going to write or draw when they got to the board. I decided on a spiral mostly because of spacing, and it worked out. I think it looks really cool. One thing to mention about this exercise is that while it is technically kind of a walk cycle, We haven't gotten to walk cycles in the book yet. I know that there's a lot more that goes into a good walk cycle, and I think we'll get there eventually. Another quick note to mention as the animation loops across the screen is that I reframed the section where the character actually draws on twos. I thought that that looked smoother. I originally planned to reframe the whole animation on threes, but the drawing action itself looked a little bit better, smoother, and faster, so I decided to frame only that section on twos. Not a lot else to say about this one. It was a really complex exercise. It took a lot of time. I feel like I learned a lot through this process. So far, I've been putting these videos out once a week. I think the cadence of videos might change a little bit as I progress, but so far this process has been really cool. I'm looking forward to continuing to learn about animation. If you're following along and you're interested in sort of recreating the exercises that I'm putting in these videos, it would be great to see your versions of these exercises. So if you stumble upon this series and you're also a beginner trying to teach yourself how to animate, feel free to drop a link to what you're working on. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.